Now, you're not a theologian, Stephen, but as a man of faith, how do you believe that Jesus would respond to students who are intersex or questioning their gender or have come out as gay?
You know, sometimes the whole question about sexuality is misunderstood. It's just one of a number of issues that any of us deal with at any time. It's probably true to say that the Christian community focuses on this issue to the exclusion of others that we should be focusing on. I'm not sure that sexuality is the most important thing about a person. I think where they stand before Christ is the most important thing about a person. And if that person elevates their sexuality or some other behaviour or some other aspect of their character above their relationship with God, then to my mind that's getting things in the wrong order. What we ought to be doing is, and what Jesus would do, would be, I think, just to ask them about their relationship with God. How do you stand before God? How do you, how are you with your fellow man? Remember, Jesus condemned the most religious, the most pious, the most legalistic people of his day. He condemned them while he elevated people who, in the eyes of the world, were unlovable, unlovely. The people with disabilities, the woman at the well who had multiple husbands, the unlovely of society, the outcasts. These were the ones that he first sought out. And why did he seek them out? Because he had pity on them? Absolutely not. He sought them out because as children of God, they had dignity and worth. And he wanted them to understand how much he loved them as God's son and how much God wanted them to know that they were loved. He wanted to restore their relationship with God the Father. This wasn't an act of pity. This was an act of identification and compassion. And if Jesus were here, he would be identifying and compassionately being with the very people that often the Christian church condemns. We should be like him.
Do you think sometimes the Christian community needs to understand or take on board that difference is not necessarily wrong?
Difference, the church too often, and not just the church, the whole of society, by the way, but the church as it represents some of the best and worst of society, to condemn people because of their difference is exactly the wrong thing to do. It's exactly the thing that will prevent people from coming to know Jesus as their Saviour. It's not the way of Christ to condemn difference as wrong. Christ reached out to the different. Christ identified with the different. Christ said, I am with you in your difference. But the most important thing that we all need to know about is that through Christ we can be restored in our relationship to God. Now, it's not just the church that condemns difference. In our society, it's now become fashionable to condemn any Christian as being a bigot. I mean, where did that come from? The self-same people who are demanding that the Christian church reach out compassionately and stop judging people who have different characteristics, whether they be sexuality, gender, or whatever else. Those same people who stand up for the right of others to have equality are the very ones who are condemning Christians, believers, as bigots and homophobes. They stand condemned by their own language. They are being just as bigoted and Christophobic, to coin a phrase, as the Christians are being accused of being. We all need to find a way to relate to each other and have a mature discussion, not this finger-waving, arm-throwing, name-calling rubbish that goes on. That doesn't help anybody, and in particular it doesn't help kids in schools. The child who is same-sex attracted in any school, who's being bullied, who sees a gay activist going hammer and tongs with some theologian on the television, how does that help them? That's exactly the sort of behaviour that will lead them to question their own identity and will put them onto a downward spiral that may indeed end in self-harm. The way we conduct this debate is one of the most important things we can possibly do for these kids.